Wipes help families do it all. Whether it's a quick cleanup or care that's being handled, their ease can't be beat. But we know it's not always the intended trash can where they end up. And that choice has an impact that can extend far beyond that moment. At the Responsible Flushing Alliance, we know that wipes help keep our families and homes healthy and clean. And we know the care and precision that goes into ideating and crafting them, long before they do the work to help us clean and sanitize. But once they've done their intended job, many wipes not designed for drain waste plans are being flushed. And when combined with fats, oils, and greases in our aging sewer infrastructure, massive clogs develop that sap municipal resources. The forensic analysis of these clogs show intact wipes being removed whenever they develop, showing the hand of consumer choice at work in this mounting problem. That's where the Responsible Flushing Alliance can help. Who will speak with and to consumers directly to provide education about what to flush and what to trash? We can. We're a nonprofit trade association dedicated to reaching consumers through smart research, education, and outreach through our Flush Smart campaign. We work in step with wastewater partners to determine materials to help their constituents to get smarter about their flushes. And we keep our industry partners in compliance with changing state guidance so that everyone has the opportunity to be water wise, not only at the tap, but flush smart every time the lid goes down. We're the Responsible Flushing Alliance, helping you flush smart.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us at the Responsible Flushing Alliance's 2023 annual meeting today. If you're new to RFA, we're an independent, nonprofit trade association committed to educating consumers about responsible and smart flushing habits, which in turn help keeps our homes and our communities healthy. Today, I'm your host for this hour, and we're excited you've joined us to learn more about how RFA's mission and that of the industry is being advanced throughout California. More importantly, how you plug in and help play a pivotal role to spread awareness of the do not flush symbol and educate consumers on those flush smart habits. To kick us off, I'd like to introduce RFA Board Chairman Mandy Ciccarella. Mandy is a 16-year veteran of the Procter & Gamble Company, and over her career, she's served in many communications roles across both company communications and multiple CPG categories. In her current role as Communications Director of North America for Family Care, Mandy leads the communication strategy for the P&G paper business. Mandy has served on RFA's board of directors for the past 2 years and in the capacity of chairwoman this past year. Coming to us today from Cincinnati, please welcome our chair for a few opening remarks.
Thanks, Blaine. Hi, everyone. As many of you know, I've been part of RFA for over 2 years now and serving as the RFA board chair for almost a year. I'm so proud of the progress we've made together as a community. Specifically, I'm proud of the nonwovens industry for coming together with wastewater organizations and NGOs to educate consumers and influential stakeholders on such an important issue. Flushing habits, fogs, and fatbergs are not your everyday dinner conversation, or at least they weren't mine until I began representing P&G at RFA. But we're proud to say we're seeing responsible flushing become an important topic of conversation with consumers, policymakers, and community leaders. Hopefully, through our collective efforts, we aim to see a significant decrease in fatbergs and home plumbing issues. The nonwovens industry is making great strides by leading on this issue. A RFA survey commissioned last fall assessed consumer awareness of the do not flush symbol and the consequences of poor flushing habits. We're happy to say there's growing awareness of the importance of responsible flushing, but I found it particularly interesting that consumer expectations included industry educational initiatives on which products can and cannot be flushed. 83% of California consumers surveyed agreed that we should clearly label our non-flushable products to warn consumers against flushing the wrong thing. And as any good marketer, we are meeting consumer demand by not only providing them with essential products to keep their homes healthy, but also clear messaging on how to keep their communities healthy. As you all know, we have an important role to play beyond sales numbers and hidden KPIs. We must also deliver on purpose and help consumers differentiate between flushable and non-flushable items. Packaging is the first and last interaction the consumer has with the product before disposing of it after use. The new Do Not Flush symbol is there to help bring awareness of what not to flush. But in California, we see warning, cautionary, and instructive symbols everywhere. It's easy to miss if we're not training ourselves to look for it. And that's exactly what we're committed to do here at RFA. In 2022, we established a framework for consumer education that not only brings awareness to the symbol, but also has the power to influence behavioral change. In the same survey I mentioned earlier, most respondents that were exposed to RFA's advertising said it made them rethink their flushing habits. Nearly all respondents said this issue was important in their home community. Laura's going to share more about her results from our 2022 efforts, so I won't steal her spotlight on that. I'll leave you with this. We all have the power to influence positive change by leading from the front. And we already know that our consumers care about this issue. Let's help them bridge the gap between awareness and long-term behavior change. If you want to know more on helping us at RFA advance our efforts, stay tuned for the end and we'll share our contact information. We're delighted for you to be here with us today.
As you can already see, RFA has already been very busy in the past couple of years, driving awareness of the Do Not Flush symbol and helping consumers maintain a healthy home. To share more of what we're up to, please welcome RFA President Laura Weiss. Based in Seattle, Laura leads this first of its kind consumer education campaign working to support responsible flushing. With a career spanning more than 25 years in the communication advocacy space, she brings an in-depth knowledge of customer-centric communications to the mission of RFA. In her capacity as president, she's built a strong coalition of manufacturers alongside wastewater and municipal organizations with the central goal of preserving public infrastructure and empowering families to protect their homes and the environment. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you, Blaine, for that kind introduction, and welcome everyone to RFA's second annual meeting. Today, I want to share with you highlights from the great progress we made in educating consumers about what not to flush in 2022. But first, a reminder about who the RFA is. The Responsible Flushing Alliance is started as an independent 501c6 association on August 1st, 2020, and we are dedicated to consumer education regarding to smart flushing habits. And we wouldn't be able to have such a robust consumer education campaign that we call Flush Smart without the generous support of our members. Today, we have 35 members, 25 companies within the wipes supply chain, and 6 advisory members that also care about proper disposal practices and the environment. Back in 2020, 11 of these companies were our founding members, and 14 of them joined over the last 2 years. As always, I want to thank you for your ongoing support and efforts. At RFA, our purpose statement is straightforward. We are here to educate consumers on keeping their homes and communities healthy by knowing what not to flush and other flush smart tips. Our aim is to share knowledge regarding the proper disposal practices of non-flushable wet wipes by highlighting the Do Not Flush symbol found on wipes, as well as other what not to flush items that are commonly found in fatbergs. And why is this important? A study conducted by the National Association of Clean Water Agencies estimates that improperly flushed wipes cost about $441 million a year in additional operating costs in the collection systems of U.S. clean water agencies. 4 states in the U.S. have current laws on their books requiring non-flushable wipes to be labeled prominently with the Do Not Flush symbol. Those states include Washington, Oregon, Illinois, and California. In addition to the labeling requirements, California also requires wipes companies to support consumer education efforts so that the public understands what the do not flush symbol is, where to find it, and why it is important to keep non-flushable wipes out of sewers. Wipes companies can either conduct their own consumer education campaigns or join RFA. We have just completed our first year of official Flush Smart programming, and our members enjoy compliance with the state of California's requirements. There are 6 distinct requirements in the California law regarding consumer education, and if anyone wants more information or has questions, please feel free to contact me. As I just mentioned, we completed our first full year of our Flush Smart campaign for 2022. Over the next few slides, I'd like to share with you some of our key successes. From a top-line perspective, we focused our efforts on earned media through press coverage, disseminating our educational materials, accessing our social media channels, providing materials to wastewater agencies and our advisory partners, as well as through our digital and print advertising campaigns. Overall, in 2022, we were able to reach a lot of people. We had nearly 1,000 news stories mentioning RFA and 652 news stories mentioning the do not flush symbol, for an aggregated total readership of 1.5 billion, according to a media tracking tool we use called Cision. Additionally, our print advertising reached over 150 million people, and our digital social media campaign reached another 8.4 million. And now I'll share with you some examples of our achievements from each of these components. Here are just a few samples of articles written about RFA and our programs. These are examples of our educational materials. All of them are free and downloadable from our website and are available in both English and Spanish. RFA is building up its social media presence, so please look for us and like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You'll notice down below that the Clog Monster has his own Twitter handle. He hasn't posted much so far, but that may be changing in 2023, so stay tuned. In addition to posting organic copy on our social media channels, we also focus our digital advertising on promoting various posts throughout each month. These are some examples of some of the top performing digital ads. We also had a print advertising in the USA Today Winter Travel Guide, reaching more than 150 million readers through print and digital versions, as well as promotions from its partners. You may have also seen our public service announcement in Life and Style magazine, where we remembered people that if they see the do not flush symbol, be sure to toss that wipe in the trash and never the toilet. We formally launched our 2022 Flush Smart campaign on July 1st, which is proclaimed to be Flush Smart Day. Many of our wastewater partners helped us spread the word about smart flushing practices, and we were also featured on the Sacramento News. Speaking of our wastewater partners, RFA works with our advisory members and individual wastewater agencies around the country. We provide educational materials, sample social media posts, and more. If you're a wastewater association and you're interested in receiving more information, please let us know. We'd love to add you to our mailing list. And lastly, I'd definitely be remiss as RFA's president if I didn't mention our membership opportunities for wipes manufacturers and companies within the nonwoven industries, as well as advocacy memberships for nonprofits, NGOs, and media partners. And you can always contact me. I'm happy to share with you the membership information. So thank you for your time today. And before I pass it along to our next guest, let's roll one of our educational videos featuring our storybook, Apollo, the Clog Fighting Dog. Thank you.
Apollo, a clog-fighting dog. Apollo is a good dog. He follows the rules and protects the house. Good dog. Artemis is a naughty cat. She does not follow the rules and does not protect the house. Off the countertop. Artemis likes to play tricks. She has quick paws and a strong tail. She uses them to knock things off the kitchen counter. Oh no! And the bathroom shelf. No, Artemis, not in the toilet. Crash, splash. Stop. Those do not belong in the toilet. Do not flush wipes with this sign. If you don't follow the rules, do you know who will come? The clog monster! Yuck! Yikes! Oh no! Clogs break toilets and cause water pollution. Don't feed the clog monster. If you see this do not flush symbol on wipes, do not flush them in the toilet. The end.
I now have a great privilege to speak with both Jessica Gogger and Heidi Sanborn about how wastewater and the nonwovens industry can collaborate to solve the problems caused by improper flushing and the growth of fatbergs. Jessica is the Director of Legislative Advocacy and Public Affairs at the California Association of Sanitation Agencies, also known as CASA. In her role, Jessica is CASA's lead advocate in the California legislature and interfaces with elected officials, legislative staff, and other stakeholders to advance CASA's public policy priorities. She also works in conjunction with our professional consultants in Washington, D.C. to advocate on behalf of the issues of interest to the wastewater community. Heidi is the executive director of the National Stewardship Action Council. As the organization's founding director, she brings more than 30 years of experience being a leader in the solid waste industry. Heidi is the nation's foremost expert on producer responsibility and product stewardship. In her personal time, Heidi is an elected board member representing Ward 7 on the Sacramento Municipal Utility District Board. Please help me welcome our panelists. Awesome. Kicking us off, Jessica, a 2022 survey commissioned by RFA found that while consumers mostly understand that flushing the wrong thing can have negative consequences in home plumbing and local infrastructure, many still practice those irresponsible flushing habits that we and Apollo are trying to dissuade them of. Jessica, as someone who has knowledge of what happens in wastewater systems, can you tell us more about what actually happens to non-flushables post-flush?
Of course, and I hope you've all already had your lunch. Sorry to talk about something so gross, but it's something that is very important to us. And thank you for the question, and thank you for having us here at your annual meeting today. Wipes are one of the most universal nuisances found in wastewater systems. We see them flushed in systems of all sizes, and we see problems across systems of all sizes associated with this improper disposal habit. This is a nationwide and really worldwide problem, but here in California, we are kind of unique with our wastewater systems. In most years, we're in kind of an anomalous year this year, but in most years, California is in a significant drought, meaning we've taken a lot of steps as a state to use less water. So our sewer systems run slower and lower than in many other places. And so with those slower flows, there's more opportunity for debris to clump together as it moves through the system. And what we see is wipes begin ragging. So they wrap around each other and they form these giant debris blankets that get caught on features in the system, like corners and pumps, or on tree roots in a private sewer lateral, or the rags catch other non-flushables like grease and they become fatbergs. So with ragging, we see a couple things. We see interference with system components. So we regularly see pump failures. We have pumps in the systems to help move water where it needs to be moved. And so when rags get into those pumps, they fail. They have to be manually disassembled. The rags have to be pulled out. And then we also see overflows. So with the collection systems and in private sewer laterals, when rags get caught on system components, they can back up sewage and then sewage overflows. So at the plants, the wastewater treatment plants all the way down at the end of the line. If rags and wipes make it that far, it does require manual removal of that debris in the headworks coming into the plant. And then you got to pull all those rags out and send it off to the landfill. I would note that it's not just an operational headache for us. It really is a liability for the sewer spills. All spills have to be reported to our water board. They're subject to fines and penalties. And some analysis of our state sewer overflow database shows that we can actually demonstrate a higher frequency of spills being attributed to rags over time. So it is a very significant component for spills. And then, of course, if we incur penalties, we're public agencies. So those costs do get passed on to our ratepayers. And then just one final note is that microplastics is a really big deal for our industry. And so source reduction is really front of mind for us. So anything we can do to reduce microplastics loadings in wastewater influent, including from plastic fibers shedding off of wipes, that's incredibly important for us as sort of future regulatory decisions are being considered.
Heidi, in your view, what collaboration is most helpful to keep pollutants out of our waterways? I know you're doing some amazing work and in partnership with RFA and other organizations as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in this space now, as you said, for over 30 years here based in California. And I found that to make big things happen, we need partnerships and collaboration across stakeholder groups. So one of the things I'm really excited about is that working with Jessica and Laura, we've created a great partnership and INDA to educate the public correctly on the label about what wipes can do. They cannot be thrown into the toilet and without causing a lot of problems for them and for us downstream. And I do want to build on what Jessica said about microplastics. This is a growing area of science that's gaining momentum very quickly. In fact, we just found out yesterday there's a new disease for birds that are ingesting so much plastic. They're getting a stomach lining disease they're calling plasticosis. This is like every day there's breaking news in this space. So it's very, very important that we keep these wipes out of the water for a whole lot of reasons, clogs just being one of them. But the collaboration is where, I've always said you can't close the loop on products and get things managed properly if you don't close the loop on the conversation. And that means that we have to have all the stakeholders talking to each other and knowing how we each manage this throughout the entire system through end of life. And hopefully at some point we can get to the place where they just, they're either completely dissolved and biodegraded or we can recycle them some way. But until that time, we have to manage them properly and make sure they don't create clogs. So I'm very excited about the partnership. It's working. We're spreading the word along with INDA and others and hoping that we can get harmony across the country in this space, because it would be certainly a lot easier for all of us, including and especially the manufacturers.
Jessica, what other perspectives can you share with us on what consumers and industry can do to help prevent fatbergs and these sanitary sewer overflows?
Well, I agree with Heidi that partnerships are very important. I think we're off to a really good start with our partners in the wipes industry that are working with RFA to educate consumers about proper disposal habits. We in the wastewater industry have been shouting from the rooftops about no wipes in the pipes for so many years, and it really does have to come at consumers from all angles, and we need really consistent messaging and education to drive that behavior change. We think consumers put a lot of faith in their trusted brands, and they tend to also just follow obvious directions, which makes that do not flush label so important. And I would like to take a moment to recognize and commend the companies that have joined RFA for doing the right thing and living up to their end of the bargain that we negotiated in the bill, and working with us to educate consumers about how their products should be used. We've really come a long way from where we were many years ago when this issue first started surfacing. And, we haven't always seen eye to eye on everything, but with this effort, we did acknowledge a shared objective here, and we've been able to move it forward in a meaningful way. I've heard personally from my agencies, both big and small, that RFA is a really valuable resource for them. And, they're living up to their end of the bargain by running the campaign with all the elements that are required by the state law. And in our view, they are the only campaign in compliance with AB 818, as the law requires consultation with us on the campaign, and that's the only campaign that we have worked with, and as far as we know, the only campaign that has submitted their first annual compliance report to the legislature. So appreciate all of the effort from RFA, and I think they're doing a great job, and I think there's just a lot more good work to be done and a good partnership to move forward with.
Heidi, in your view, how can consumers and the nonwovens industry help pass on those responsible flushing habits to the spheres of influence that they each have, including the promotion of that do not flush symbol?
Well, let me start by saying that truth in labeling is absolutely key. I actually chaired the Recycling Commission here in California for 2 years, and our task was to help, in part, to try and remove contamination from the entire waste management system. Just kind of like this is trying to remove, contamination from the water system. And as was pointed out by Laura earlier, the label is absolutely critical to be a communication tool to the public. I don't want to get into why it was ever labeled as flushable and why we've had to spend so many years getting to this point. But I do want to say we're super grateful, and build off of what Jessica said, we're super grateful for the companies that have stepped up and are working with us. That is exactly how we're going to solve this together. But truth in labeling is becoming a big thing in the waste industry. And I have helped pass bills, and we're working on them now, in defining compostable, recyclable, the wipes, cannabis vaping. They were labeled as disposable, and they've got batteries in them. So we're seeing this across the board. And now our Attorney General in California is even going after the plastic bag manufacturers for listing things as recyclable. So this is an area that I just, want to share with the manufacturers in particular. Super, super important to be careful what you put on the label, that it can be defended, because the state of California is really starting to watch this. And I know I'm starting to get calls from people that are looking in the aisles and saying, "Heidi, didn't you help work on that law?" Because this still says flushable, and they're sending us pictures. And we even have folks that are actually, out there looking in stores to give us feedback on what they're seeing. So it's a kind of exciting, like people care, and they're trying to figure out how to help and how to give us input. But it does come down to working together, the public campaign. We share all the posts. We talk about this all the time. We're helping on the national legislation to harmonize this across the country with all of our partners here. Also, I'm even working with the FTC Green Guides. That's the Federal Trade Commission is updating their Green Guides once every 10 years. They're doing it on defining what's guidance on labeling and getting this in there as well. So there's lots of great ways that we can all work together. But the public, it's going to take repetition. And to me, until we get the label correct, they're going to be confused if we say something different over here than what they're seeing on the label. So as soon as that's harmonized, it's starting to happen now. It'll be a lot easier to get everybody to follow the directions.
Awesome. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate both your time today. Now I know we're just going to take a quick look at why it's always important to look for that do not flush symbol you just heard so much about. Did you know that flushing discipline is a key part to helping maintain a healthy home and healthy community? That's right, flushing discipline. It's the practice of knowing what you can and cannot flush down the toilet to help prevent issues down the line at our wastewater facilities. Take this common non-flushable wet wipe, for example. Every day, millions of Americans use products just like this to clean countertops, toilet seats, and keyboards. But this simple wipe can create havoc if it gets flushed down a toilet and into our local sewer system. This style of wipe and many others are specifically designed for strength and durability. They are not designed to break down in water or break apart while in use. Non-flushable wipes are made of long fibers that are often synthetic to help keep it together while you're using it. Non-flushable wipes include baby wipes, general purpose cleaning wipes, and makeup removal wipes, just to name a few. So remember, when you're done with a wipe like this, it always goes in the trash and never the toilet. So where do you start? Well, we've made practicing flushing discipline easy. Simply look for the Do Not Flush symbol on your wet wipes packaging to start practicing flushing discipline today. If you find the Do Not Flush symbol, just toss the wipe in the trash, not the toilet. For more information about practicing smart flushing habits, visit flushsmart.org. Lastly in our program, we looked at the future of the Flush Smart campaign. 2023 has a lot in store, so I'd like to welcome to the screen officially our colleagues from Edelman Global Advisory to share what you can expect to see from RFA this year. Our Edelman team is helping RFA run a strategic consumer education effort in the state of California to further increase awareness of our beloved Do Not Flush symbol and what not to flush itself. Aaron Gitterman is Edelman Global Advisory's Chief Innovation Officer and Global Digital Chairman for Issues Management and Public Affairs. From Washington, D.C., he deploys 25 years of experience designing and implementing campaign strategies around the globe. Also joining us today, we have Stephen McDonald, a creative lead in Edelman's Content Lab. Stephen has over a decade of experience working on digital media and marketing. Welcome, gentlemen. We'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Blaine. Thank you, Laura, Jessica, and Heidi, and others, and members of RFA, as well as those attending today. We're going to take a quick look at what we have planned in terms of communications programming moving into 2023 and deeper into the year. But I want to underscore something that Heidi said: repetition drives adoption. And it's absolutely essential for us to not just communicate the issue and communicate and drive awareness of the Do Not Flush issue and symbol. It's critical to understand that repetition and frequency of message will drive awareness and ultimately adoption. And so we're going to see, and we're going to walk through our 2023 campaign plan at a very high level. There's some really exciting elements here, and we've divided the year into 3 distinct campaign approaches that will tie into the cultural currency needed to not just communicate the facts associated with responsible flushing habits, but more importantly, to really underscore the role that the Do Not Flush symbol plays in protecting our sewer systems, keeping our homes and our communities healthy, and more importantly, having consumers do the right thing, which we're learning more and more. Consumers want to know what role they can play in keeping their communities healthy and their environments clean. And this is just something that ties into that cultural connection between RFA, the industry, and the consumers that use the products day in and day out. So if we go to the next slide, so looking at the campaign we have planned for this year, so in 2022, it was really our foundational year, right? It was the year where RFA truly kind of integrated itself into the Californian cultural lexicon in working with wastewater partners, working with their members, working with the communities, and working with the California State Legislature to establish Flush Smart Day and recognize that July 1st, will be this day moving forward where, consumers, will continue to get a push on the role that they can play in keeping their communities healthy and the role that smart flushing plays, responsible flushing plays in it. So we launched our campaign in 2022, really debuting and creating a foundation for the Do Not Flush symbol. And we kind of evaluated consumer awareness and habits. And what we saw in the state of California after year 1 was that there is high awareness of the role that consumers can play in responsible flushing. There is high awareness, moderate awareness of the Do Not Flush symbol already, and we've seen a good movement of awareness of where people recognizing the symbol, understanding where they've seen it, but consumers still practice some bad behavior and flushing items down the toilet that shouldn't ever be found down the drain. So in kind of looking at that baseline research and the performance in 2022, and you can see this in the annual report that Laura posted in the chat from today's session, but the data indicates that there's a real opportunity here. And the real opportunity is for us to, and you're going to see on the right-hand side of the slide, is driving awareness, continue to really reinforce the role that it plays within the state and the role that consumers can play in responsible flushing. But in order to do that, we need to create a cultural and emotional connection with consumers. It's one thing to communicate facts and figures to key audience groups and targets. It's another to wrap that up and that story up in something that's memorable, something that ties into the cultural currency of the state and the communities that you're serving. And it makes it immediately relevant and memorable. We want to equip the industry and wastewater with resources to continue to lead education efforts on this issue. You saw some of our fun materials that we've developed with Laura and RFA, and we're going to be expanding upon those greatly this year. So we're excited about that and providing wastewater and other partners with unbranded collateral so that they can also leverage that in their ecosystems. And another really key item is that 2023 will continue to be a noisy and crowded market to communicate in. So we are going to be doing a surgical, very concerted effort on maximizing engagement and awareness through a mix of really sound earned media initiatives, leveraging the owned media platforms on social and on the website, as well as the partners and affiliates that we work with, and then really amplify everything we can with a strategic paid media plan. So we're excited about 2023. We're going to walk you through some of the programming that we have on the kind of workbench. But our campaign at a glance breaks into kind of three phases. Phase one is 2022, what we talked before, was really our foundation year. But for now, and now that we're in January and the time between, March and January, well, really January and July 1st, we're going to be setting the stage for a pretty significant consumer education campaign that has a unique archetype, has a unique feel to it, and ties into the cultural currency of California and the entertainment industry. So with that said, this first wave of work, we're going to be, go back one slide, we're going to be really pushing the do not flush symbol. We're going to be leveraging it in paid, earned, and owned media and amplifying the role that it plays on packaging, on the role that it plays and where it can be found on packaging, but the role that it plays in educating consumers. Our goal is to make the symbol unavoidable in the media plan that we'll have out there from a paid and owned standpoint, but we're also going to be leveraging some pretty unique consumer-oriented PR strategies to engage journalists and ed boards, to also gain third-party kind of narratives in relation to the role the industry is playing and the role that the do not flush symbol is playing in educating consumers on responsible flushing. So Q1 and Q2 of this year are really about the core consumer education main thrust of the do not flush symbol, and we're really excited about it. Come July 1st, though, we are going to be launching a fully integrated, entertainment-driven, memorable campaign, a public education campaign that connects the content of the RFA and the do not flush symbol with consumers via cultural relevancy within the state of California. So while the goal is to push the do not flush symbol, we're going to be using the clog monster in some pretty unique campaign, really well-disciplined campaign elements through a series of social content, through some video trailers, through different storylines that we're going to be bringing to bear that tie into popular culture, which we'll show you a couple of tidbits in a second. And then as that runs through third quarter, where we're really creating this kind of balance between the do not flush symbol and the clog monster that's starring in movie trailers and, you know, playing off of popular culture. Come phase 3 in the fall, we're then going to also have some responses from the clog monster and our archetype on the role that the do not flush symbol is playing in starving he and his community from creating clogs. So consumers will be able to see not just the symbol as the solution, as part of the solution, but more importantly, they're going to start to be able to relate to the impact through some educational materials that are both informative, but also educational and fun to watch. So our goal with the content by featuring the clog monster is not for them to want to just, you know, great, I saw this spot, it was funny. I want, and this is why Stephen and I keep riffing on with one another. It's absolutely essential for our audience to want to see the next piece of communications. So to put this into context, if we can go to the next slide, we are going to tie in the do not flush symbol and the clog monster into, if you read this slide from left to right, kind of Q1 is going to focus on pushing the do not flush symbol, where to look, what role it plays. We have, I don't know, we're already in, you know, 30, 40 or more actual executions of this style and other styles to amplify the symbol. And you can visit our social media handles to see this content live in action. But on the left-hand side is really that first wave, that anchor wave of content. Wave 2 and 3 is where we start to have some really exciting and culturally relevant fun to get consumers to really understand and engage and notice the content, where we are going to be featuring the clog monster in, you know, tying them into, you know, cultural elements, right? Movie posters and movie trailers. Like, we are thinking about how we can use the clog monster's eyes coming out from underneath a toilet seat to bring that to life. We're going to be talking about the clog monster jamming up feeds on social media to kind of put it in context, but allow the clog monster to also respond back to consumers and the RFA and its members. So it's really exciting to see that, you know, we have an archetype that, you know, people remember. It's a little softer now in terms of look and feel than our beta. So Stephen here is building a clog monster as we speak. And so that will be ready for debut on July 1st or shortly prior to July 1st. And you are the first to, you know, see, hear, and understand what we are planning on doing. So think of this as a preview. If we go to the next slide, I think there's some behind the scenes efforts that Stephen wanted to walk you through. Stephen, over to you.
Yeah, so we have a lot of really big ambitions, as Aaron was talking about, and we also want to make a splash online, and we also want to make sure that we can really capture people's attention and also kind of amaze people as much as possible. And so the thing is that leaning into that kind of magic of Hollywood, what we're bringing to bear for RFA is using really old school tactics that people used to have: miniatures, being able to do special effects shots, being able to get a lot out of very little, but simultaneously be able to really tell a lot of story and be able to make a very big grand vision so that we can capture people's attention online, because things are moving so quickly online. Things are so reverential and explosive, and people are talking so often about so much. We have to do something a little bit crazy to break through. And so the thing is that we have a lot of surprises for Flush Smart Day. And the thing is, we've got clog monsters coming out of everywhere here. And the thing is that it's just, we're working very hard to make something that's going to be really fun for everybody, and to break through all of the chaos that's going online, to make sure that people really understand and retain that feeling and have that moment where they want to share something with a friend and be able to take content that we have and be able to go, look, this is something that really connects with me, but also is something that we need to learn about and we all need to grow with, and also something that you can share with your kids, share with your family, to be able to understand what we're doing and be able to understand the do not flush symbol. So we have a lot of really kind of special and fun things that we're trying to put together that has that campy kind of vibe of Gremlins or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, something along those lines. But even as we crest past Flush Smart Day, we have a lot of ideas that we are going to have a lot of fun with, a lot of big plans as we go into the rest of the year. So Aaron, I'm going to kick it back to you.
No, I appreciate that. So looking forward, we are constantly in a creative storytelling mode and producing content to live not just on our social channels, but within the earned media ecosystem, within advertising ecosystem, to drive awareness and engagement moving forward. So if any of you would like to, if you have any questions or you want to get involved, feel free to reach out. Our contact information is easy to find. You can contact us at info@flushmart.org. Follow us on social, absolutely, because you're going to love what we're going to be posting. But more importantly than its likability and its awareness is its efficacy. So over the course of the year, we're also going to be tracking performance metrics, and because we are going to be issuing our second annual report to the state assembly or state legislature. And so we'd love to have it to be as effective as possible. So we are going to be tracking our performance. But feel free to join us, follow us, get engaged. And, if you're a member company, you produce wipes, feel free to join RFA. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen. It sounds like we actually have a little bit of time for question and answer.
Blaine, can Stephen come back up front and show his puppet again? Because I don't think that people really could see it.
He's not done, okay? And he's got a lot of character left in him, and we've got a lot of plans. But we've got an initial kind of moment of having some fun.
Great.
None of that. We are all works in progress, Stephen. So that is fine. He's in good company here.
And I just want to say it's fun to share these because they are so fun. So I want to thank, Stephen and the team and Aaron, because, it does ring true to people, the clog monster and his crazy little pharmaceutical eyes. And I had done a whole campaign around getting people to stop flushing their medicines because that poisons the water too. So it's a really good message and a really good visual. Thanks for doing it.
No, we appreciate the approval to move forward with some of our very creative ideas. So we're really looking forward to this year on the content. More importantly, though, we're really looking forward to partnering with industry, wastewater, and other stakeholders to ensure that we're doing what we can to promote and protect environmental stewardship and keeping our communities healthy.
Now, Laura, I think we're sharing a couple of questions for some of our panelists to answer. Is that right?
Yeah, we have some time. So let's try to get through a couple of questions. So the first question that came in is, will this seminar be repeated or can we share this webinar with colleagues at a later time? So we are recording it. And I will be making that available to participants. I'm also going to include it in our next newsletter. So if you have registered for this, I will be sure to add you to our new monthly newsletter. And so you can find it there, or you can feel free to contact me at laura@flushsmart.org and I'll send you a link. Great. Okay. The next question is, do you think that responsible flushing is enough to protect our water pipes? How can my one wipe tossed instead of flush fix such a large problem? Jessica and Heidi, I have my perspective, which is really focused on the do not flush education, specifically around non-flushable wipes. But, I believe, and you guys are the experts on this, it just takes one non-flushable wipe to really wrap around those pumps and cause a lot of damage. But I'll turn it over to you to talk about what are some ways to protect our water pipes, and is not flushing one wipe going to make a difference?
It makes a difference. If everyone in your neighborhood flushes one wipe, that's 100 wipes and there's your rag. So it really does make a difference. And it really also, I think what's really important is the behavior change, because even if you just flush one wipe a day, you've now flushed 365 wipes in a year. And that's enough to, put a pump out of commission. That's enough for your private sewer lateral to overflow. And now you're dealing with sewage in your bathtub. I mean, so it really is just connecting the behavior to the actual impact, I think. And certainly if we can keep one wipe out, we'll do everything we can to do that. And I think it is an important message that your everyday behavior does really impact your whole neighborhood and, the services that you're paying for.
Well, and you're asking basically a personal opinion. So I'm just going to put on, this is just Heidi's personal opinion hat. When you put stuff on the market, there are just some people that won't follow directions. It's usually the 80-20 rule. And my gut tells me that this may not be enough. And I am not sure that we're going to be able to achieve the level of compliance we're going to need in order for this to not be an issue anymore. So the key is for all of us to work really hard, really fast to get this to work as best we can, in hopes that we can avoid for future regulation, because the chances to me are pretty high and good that there will be a proposed ban at some point if this doesn't stop, because the cost is just too high and they're finding too many microplastics in the water. And it's like I said, the science is getting better every day. We're getting new information. So I just say, let's just go and see how fast we can address this and stop it and hope that it works. But if it doesn't, I'm quite sure something else will be done down the road.
Heidi, springing off of your response here, I have a question from our chat that I'm sure some other folks are curious about as well, kind of winking a little bit at the pending legislative landscape here. And it's that, beyond the states that we've mentioned, the four, right, who are there others who have pending legislation to join in the communication and enforcement efforts? Are there other folks who are standing up to jump in line as well?
It's just a matter of time. And that's why we're trying so hard to work together on a national solution to make sure it's harmonized. And it kind of plays off of what we've all agreed on here. So again, I think this is all about teamwork. I always say to companies, leadership, if you're either at the table and leading or on the menu. Let's not be on the menu. Let's lead, let's do the best we can, and let's try to get this to be harmonized and pass this national legislation to harmonize as best we can, because otherwise it'll be a patchwork quilt of rules. It'll be a nightmare for the companies to comply with. I've seen this on electronic waste. I've seen this on so many different things happen. So I always say, just step up and lead, lean in, let's work together. And the chances, often legislatures, if they will put it on pause, if they see effort, real effort going to solve the problem. So that's where I think our partnership is so important.
I'll also add that with the 4 states that have legislation on the books, that means that wipe manufacturers are putting the do not flush symbol on their packaging. They are not creating specific packaging just for California or just for Washington. So, the good news is even in outside of those 4 states, you should be seeing that symbol on non-flushable wipes. We have time for maybe one more question, Blaine, and then the other questions that we don't get to will respond in writing.
Perfect. This one is from the consumer perspective. So just making sure that we've got everyone on the line for it. I'm sure we do. Many wipes manufacturers advertise their products as flushable, but of course, oftentimes plumbers and others that work in the sewer space say things like, they have a conflicting message, right? They might say that no wipes are really flushable. Is there a way to know if wipes are truly flushable? Or is it really true that we should never flush any wipes? Should they really all go in the trash? Or is there a bright line rule that customers can feel good about?
Yeah, that's a great question. And kind of, I think one of the reasons that we see this legislation is that from a consumer's perspective, when you look at a wipe, it's, like a white square and they look the same. And what we find is what we know in the wipes industry, so it's called nonwovens. What we know is that those wipes are made fundamentally different. So a non-flushable wipe is made with very long fibers that are often synthetic, and they are meant to be durable and have a strong efficacy for cleaning up messes or whatever their intended use is. And those are the wipes that can stretch and loop around the wastewater equipment or your home plumbing and cause a lot of issues. And also those fibers tend to have synthetic components to it. Not always. The industry is looking to more sustainable fibers, but even then, with a sustainable all-natural fiber, that non-flushable wipe will not be flushable because it's still those long fibers meant to be durable. Flushable wipes, on the other hand, are made with very short natural fibers, and they kind of tear apart very, very quickly. So, and they're specifically made to disperse in water. There are many different, there's, I guess, two primary flushability certification processes that manufacturers of wipes go through in order to make a flushable claim. So, our focus at RFA is to ensure that people understand that these wipes are truly different. They might look the same to the naked eye, but they are created differently. And non-flushable wipes, where you see the do not flush symbol, are not intended to break down in water, or not intended to be flushed. So that's why it's important to toss them in the trash. And I've also seen at industry presentations where the wipes industry is looking towards compostability at either a commercial or individual level, as well as recyclability. And those are, some further out goals because it requires different infrastructure, but it's things that the industry is looking at. And I think that that's really, really positive.
I think we have time for one last question, and I'm pulling it from our Q&A here. Again, thanks to everybody for participating and asking so many great questions. We've had some awesome discussion in the chat, and thank you for all following along so closely with us. So for our final question, it's just from a member who said that, they've heard comments from members of their community, right, that say something along the lines of, we pay for this service, sewer plumbing and utilities, right? It's your job as a sewer agency to deal with us, not for us as consumers to change our behavior. What do we think is the key insight to help deal with that mentality and pull people into the energy of change and the positivity that they can affect?
Jessica, I'll turn that over to you.
Thank you. Out of sight, out of mind, right? We get that a lot in this industry. You don't want to hear from us unless something goes wrong. So I would say there's a fundamental fairness thing, right? Like the folks in your community that are doing the right thing and are practicing proper disposal habits are now subsidizing the cost of the maintenance requirements from the folks that are doing the wrong thing and flushing these products and creating that additional cost burden on, your public utilities. So from my perspective, it's why are you paying for your neighbor's laziness, right? Because they don't feel like putting something in their toilet. And it's a significant cost. I mean, you mentioned at the top of the meeting, $440 million a year. And that estimate was a pretty low estimate. It was really just kind of operations and maintenance, but not any of the, improvements that are required to be made because we can't get this debris to stop messing up our system. So that would be it. I mean, think about your pocketbook, right? It's you're paying for the service, but maybe you're paying more than you should be because we have to deal with this stuff and with people not following directions or doing the right thing.
I think it's important to point out that we don't pay for private pipes, right? So if they have a backup that's in their house, that's on them to pay for that. So it's kind of a selfish reason to think about it. But also, you know, there's not one ratepayer I know that's excited about the rates going up. I set rates as a utility president. So I'm telling you, 5 cents makes a difference to a lot of people. And so these costs are socialized, as Jessica said. The people who buy these products, if it goes into the public system and gets that far, those costs are socialized across everybody. That isn't fair. And a lot of people don't like that. So I think that person is kind of an isolated. There are those people that are out there. As I said, it's usually the 80-20 rule, but they're not the majority of people. And that's how I would respond to them too.
That's right. We want people to be part of the solution if they're part of the system, right? Thank you so much to our presenters and our panelists for joining us today. This has been just a great session. And of course, on behalf of the Responsible Flushing Alliance, I want to extend our thanks to you all for joining us today, offering your interest and your partnership in the Flush Smart campaign. If you'd like more information on how you or your organization can help advance our efforts in 2023 and beyond, please follow up with President Laura Weiss by emailing her at laura@flushsmart.org. Have a great day, everyone. And remember, when you see that symbol, don't flush.